This week on ANN, the 2022 General Conference session in St. Louis ends with emphasis on biblical principles and mission. 61st General Conference session has largest communications task force in history. Bible trivia game Heroes leads young person to baptism. These stories and more coming up now on ANN. Thank you so much for joining us this week. First in the news, Jesus is coming. Get involved. This was the theme of the 2022 St. Louis General Conference session, the 61st of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Check out some highlights of the week.
As it approaches 160 years since its official birth, the Adventist Church had its first hybrid General Conference session, complete with virtual exhibits. After 7 years and twice canceled, the session that returned to St. Louis after 17 years saw its musical concerts in digital form as well as some of its morning and afternoon services. It also saw empty spaces where there were once thousands of believers surrounding the delegates. Yes, there were empty spaces, but none were truly unoccupied. Thousands of angels were taking part. The program was broadcast in its entirety in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Russian, in addition to being translated into languages such as Korean and Romanian. And after a week of decisions that will impact the world church for the next 3 years, came the Sabbath rest, and with it all that this day entails. Anticipating the message of the president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ted Wilson, a choir and orchestra with musicians from various parts of the world inspire those present with their music. Hold Fast What You Have was the title of the sermon. Wilson began his sermon by showing, through greetings in several languages, that the Adventist Church is a worldwide movement.
Jesús viene pronto. Jésus revient bientôt. Jésus brevi volterá. Jesu anakuja upesi.
Wilson emphasized Christian simplicity, unity, the institution of marriage between a man and a woman, and other biblical truths. Here are some phrases that marked Wilson's sermon on the closing day of the 61st General Conference session of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, held from June 6 to 11 in St. Louis, Missouri, United States.
Let us never give up the pure Bible truth. Despite the swirling chaos all around us, we can plant our feet directly and believe completely in the unchanging holy Word of God, the Scriptures, the Bible.
The Sabbath also saw the closing of the 40 days of prayer, which began on May 3rd and prepared the heart of the church for the monumental event. A tribute was also paid to the city of St. Louis, host of the general meeting, and to the leaders who are retiring. A missionary program was carried out based on Reach the World, I Will Go, the main project of the church. And as always, the closing took place with believers from all over the world carrying flags and costumes of their countries. To learn more about what happened at session, including business decisions, church manual changes, elected officers, worships, and more, and to watch Pastor Ted Wilson's sermon in full, go to the Seventh-day Adventist Church's YouTube channel. The communication department of the General Conference has implemented the largest global task force in its history, with the goal of transmitting and producing news for the biggest event of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And they did all of this in 4 languages.
It's time to report on the 61st General Conference session. Here's a glimpse into our GC Session Digital Communication Task Force.
All over the world we hear many, many voices, but I believe mine is a little better known to you, ha 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 ha. From the virtual to the real, we believe that people are important, and as a church, we are a huge global family. So how do we communicate to over 21 million hearts who each have different stories and pasts, and how do we do this in creative and meaningful ways? Well, we want to introduce you to our entire operation.
Hello, I'm Melissa Truman. The key word that makes our task force work is connection. We have a great team. Well, there's actually kind of 4 teams operating around the world. We have a team right here in St. Louis, one in Manila, a team of contractors in over 10 countries. We communicate with them mostly via WhatsApp and Zoom, and amazing division and union communication directors. We value being creative, connected, and communicators. For us, this starts with our social media. Before GC session, we updated our websites and social networks with a new feature. You can now find us in 4 different languages. Our goal? To produce content for you to enjoy and share with others. Let me introduce you to some of our team here in St. Louis. There are almost 40 people divided into 3 different teams. We have ANN Video, ANN Web, and the social media team, which manages all of the social media channels of the Adventist Church.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. A&M Video produces a 30-minute news program every day during GC session, and 3 other programs commenting on highlights every day, including a brand new program, A&M Late Night-ish. It's specially designed for young people. And that's not all. We also have a web team.
A&M Web has a team of writers focusing on every nuance of the session to help you understand what happened, why it happened, and what it means for your local church. This is the very first time that the communication department has taken on such a tremendous task, publishing information you need to know in so many languages, so you can imagine the complexity of the operation. But we are not alone. We also have the Manila team.
Hi, yes, we are happy to be a part of such a historical moment in the history of GC sessions. Of course, we work remotely to help the process happen. We take the strategy, the vision, turn into a process, and make it happen.
We have innovative technology that has made this entire operation possible. And of course, we have trained a lot for this moment. First, the writers write, then they hand it off to the designers, who turn into something amazing. The designers then send it over to the translators, who personalize it for their language audience. All this spanning across several different time zones to serve you. To get the job done, a detailed plan was drawn up months before session took place. It took a lot of creative sessions to get us to where we are now.
Hello, Rina. Exactly. To engage with our social media community, our team of designers work within a communication process, doing our best to inspire you. None of this would be possible if you didn't have a good tech support. Also, there are more than 15 people reading and respond to every comment we post across all platforms. Have I told you that we do this in 4 different languages? Amazing, is it?
In the last 2 years, we have had the privilege of praying individually for over 2 million prayer requests sent by people just like you. And this has been unaffected by GC session. Even while it is going on, the prayer requests are coming in, and we have continued our online prayer ministry.
Each follower is not just treated as a number or an achievement, but a very loved and important person. Therefore, it is not answered by a robot, but a real person. We try to share at least a little bit the love and affection we receive from our Heavenly Father. That's it, folks. Without pastoral care, we are just another account to be followed. But with this personal touch, we are a real church on social media that can make an impact.
Hey Arnaldo, don't forget to mention that we are a worldwide church, which means that part of our team is spread out all over the globe. And that's a great thing because it gives us the advantage of finding the perfect timing for social media campaigns. Since we work with a translation schedule, having people all over the world also gives us the flexibility that we need to adjust, to adapt, and to improvise because we receive new things all the time. And as much as we like time to create things, we also know that creativity strikes at the most random moments. So we need to be prepared, we need to be organized and work fast.
Once we make creative connections in our teams, department directors help us to achieve effective results with different productions. Thanks to our joint effort, our social networks are achieving their goals, representing the Seventh-day Adventist Church on worldwide channels in the most widely spoken languages in more than divisions of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists.
Publishing on the official church channels means expressing what 21 million Adventists believe and think. Despite the complexity of this impossible task, we will publish more than 5,000 posts in 4 languages through these worldwide meetings. The work is hard and there is a long way to go, but we seek to improve every day. Here we have proof that communication advances, expands, grows, and multiplies the mission of the church.
That's it, guys. Despite everything we do within communication, it is not an end in itself. We are involved in the mission because we believe that Jesus will return in our generation. He gives us the honor of sharing the gospel all over the world. That's why we made this task force, because after all, we need to communicate the good news in the most widely spoken languages in several divisions through official church accounts.
It is through our communication teams around the world and also through you that God will use our gifts to reach more and more people for our King and Savior, Jesus. Our task force has just begun and we want to continue with our mission, but for that, we count on you. Jesus is coming. Get involved.
That's all, folks. Follow the official social media channels of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I'll see you next time.
The communication structure of this General Conference session of Seventh-day Adventists made an impression on those responsible for the same department in different parts of the world. Noel Sabanda, head of the department in the Southern Africa and Indian Ocean Division, even prepared a story about it. Let's see what it's all about.
Hundreds of delegates from across the globe descended at St. Louis in Missouri, the venue for the 61st General Conference session. Among the delegates are hundreds of journalists and media personnel who are here to cover the session. The media personnel from 13 divisions were welcomed by the GC Communication Director, Elder Costa Williams Jr. and his associate, Sam Neves. Besides the 13 divisions and Adventist News Network, Adventist World Radio, Adventist Review, and Hope Channel, other media outlets that will be covering this session will be 3ABN and Spectrum Magazine. The GC Communication Department has set aside a high-tech infrastructure for all media personnel to use during this session. Addressing the communicators, Elder Williams shared the good news that all journalists will have access to the GC resources in facilitating for the coverage of their news. The communicators were taken on a tour by Elder Williams and shown all the television studios where Adventist News Network daily news bulletins will be produced. These magnificent facilities will be available to all divisions and media outlets as and when the need arises.
I think the General Conference has done a wonderful job providing the resources and tools for us to cover the General Conference session. They have the press box, they have the editing suites, and also they provide us with the pass so that we can go to places that we can take pictures. I thank the General Conference for providing everything, and it's wonderful.
It's just interesting, awesome in this competitive world. The General Conference has taken a very good step in providing these facilities. I think this will help us to communicate and to daily give an account of what is going on the ground.
The press gallery, the photographic studios, and the editing booths will also be made available to all the people who will need them. As the GC session kicks off today, the media was already on the thick of things, informing the world about what is happening at the General Conference. For the Adventist News Network, this is Noel Sabanda reporting from St. Louis.
We're going for a short break and we'll be back with more news.
Why is there evil in the world? Are Christians hypocrites? Is the Bible a fairy tale? Does Jesus love everyone? Church doesn't feel relevant to my life. Is God even real? You have questions? Let's talk about it. I Believe Bible.
It's time to learn a little bit of Adventist history. Michael Yonker brings us interesting information about the flight history of this global movement.
This week in Adventist history, we look back at the first time we officially added so-called wings to our mission. On June 16, 1963, the Fernando Stahl was christened at the Angwin Airstrip at Pacific Union College. Anna Stahl, the widow of the pioneer missionary to South America, Fernando Stahl, was there at age 94 to send the new aircraft on its way to Peru, where she and her husband had long served. While the name of the plane destined for South America was relatively easy, chosen for one of our more outstanding missionaries to the region, the choice of who should fly the plane was more challenging. We had no aviation school at the time, but eventually Clyde Peters, a young man from Kansas with about 3,000 hours of flight time to his record, mostly as a spray pilot, was chosen, making him the denomination's first official pilot. The Fernando Stahl and Clyde Peters arrived in Lima, Peru in the fall of 1963, where Don Christman, president of the Inca Union, prepared a red carpet ceremony to welcome the Fernando Stahl to his region. The success of the Fernando Stahl saw immediate success, as in the first year of its operation, it airlifted some 200 people from the jungle to safety or medical treatment. That is this week in Adventist history.
We continue with more history. Let's go to the year 1990, to the 1990 General Conference session held in Indianapolis. It was there that the Adventist Global Mission was born.
We thank God for the growth in the Seventh-day Adventist Church since Global Mission began some 3 decades ago.
I don't think we have ever sat down to discuss a subject of greater importance than global mission. And global mission requires a strategy in order to carry the message of God's love, the saving grace of Christ and His soon coming to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. A global mission and a global strategy which extends from continent to continent, country to country, city to city, group to group, and ultimately person to person.
We've seen many new people groups and countries entered. We've seen thousands of new churches planted. We've seen literally millions of people find hope and salvation through Jesus. Of course, many mission challenges still remain, but that's nothing new. When the good news about Jesus spread from Jerusalem some 2,000 years ago, it didn't happen because the apostles came together, planned together, prayed together, and said, "I will go." No, sadly, it really only happened as a byproduct of persecution. When the believers fled Jerusalem for safety, they then shared the good news in the places where they landed, like Syrian Antioch, where the church was started by refugees from Jerusalem. Today's Antioch, now called Antakya, is located just over the Turkish side of the border, and is still a destination for refugees. Tens of thousands of refugees have poured over the border from Syria in the past few years.
It was here in Antioch that the followers of Jesus were first called Christians. Just over the hill is a cave that was one of the first cave churches where they believe was one of the places where those early Christians met. This soon replaced Jerusalem as the mother church, and it became the base for sending out missionaries. The Apostle Paul launched his missionary journeys from here, planting churches throughout Turkey and the then known world. Today, Antakya is in the heart of the 1040 window, one of our most challenging mission areas, where more than 60% of the world's population lives. In this window, there are some 7,000 unreached people groups. They're considered unreached because they don't have enough of a Christian presence to continue without outside help. In this window, you find some of the world's poorest people and also some of the world's richest. It's also home to the world's great religions, with only a handful of Christians. In fact, right here in the Middle East, there are cities of more than 1 million people and not one single Seventh-day Adventist.
Of course, our urban mission challenge is not limited to the Middle East or the 1040 window. In Africa, Asia Pacific, the Americas, Europe, cities where the majority of the world's population now live are our new mission field. And of course, the cities are home to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. In any large city today, you'll find ethnic enclaves or neighborhoods such as Little Italy, or Chinatown, or Little India, or Little Korea. The list goes on, because people like to stick together. And in the large cities, you will also find every conceivable religion or belief system or non-belief system. And it's this last group, the non-believers, the secular, the post-Christian, those who live their lives without any reference to God. It's this rapidly growing group that is a particular mission challenge. How do we even begin to reach people who don't believe in God and have never even seen a Bible? How do we even begin to reach people who are rich and increased with goods and feel as if they have need of nothing? These are questions that have confronted the church in Australia, New Zealand, Europe for many years. Now they're starting to confront the church in every world territory. Behind me is St. Mark's, which was built in the 1820s as a Church of England chapel. Today, it is no longer a place of worship. It is the Mercato Mayfair. It's a food hall where people come to eat, to drink, to socialize. And it's like hundreds of other former churches throughout England, throughout Europe, that no longer serve their original purpose. They have become apartments, they have become restaurants and bars and art galleries and yoga studios, everything except that original purpose. And they are symbolic of the new post-Christian society that we are facing. Today we look at the growing secular and post-Christian populations. We look at the adherents of other world religions and the people groups of the 1040 window. We look at the cities. In the face of such challenges, many people see walls, but we see opportunities. Many see the lack of funds, but we see the source of all funds. Many see our weakness, but we see His strength. And God has invited us to participate with Him in His mission of salvation here on earth. Who will say, I will go?
If we look at people today, especially young people, it is very likely that we will find them with a cell phone in their hands, and many of them will be playing games. Taking that into consideration, Hope Channel International has published a Bible trivia game. The goal is to teach biblical truths and lead people to Christ and baptism. Let's hear Daniel Geber's experience.
Eu tive conhecimento do Heroes através de servidor no Discord que eu participo.
More than 120,000 people, mostly men between 18 and 24 years of age, have recently engaged with the biblical narrative by playing Heroes. One of them was Daniel. He found the game online and wondered if he could help make it even better by adding unique sounds to each hero.
Eles resolveram agendar uma reunião comigo para saber da minha proposta, o que é que eu tinha para oferecer no som do jogo. Aí eles gostaram da ideia e eu fui e comecei a fazer as coisas.
Soon, Daniel became interested in the stories, not just in the technology. The stories led him to the truth as presented by the Bible.
O meu relacionamento com a igreja foi além do profissionalismo. Foi a primeira vez que eu tive contato com adventistas do sétimo dia. Eu estudava a Bíblia em casa por conta própria e eu percebi que algumas coisas teológicas que tinham no meu pensamento batiam com as doutrinas da igreja. Até que um dia, de repente, chegou, por engano lá em casa, uma lição da escola sabatina no correio. Aí eu fiquei, caramba, como é que isso pode acontecer, né? Que só pode ser um sinal de Deus assim para eu me direcionar a essa igreja, né? Resolvi ir para a Central de Natal, mais ou menos em novembro, no final de novembro, e aí em janeiro do ano seguinte eu me batizei. Eu acho que o Heroes é muito importante para você aprender mais sobre a Bíblia de uma forma divertida e até mesmo no próprio site do Heroes tem uns estudos bíblicos realmente bem profundos. Se você quiser aprender de verdade sobre a Bíblia e até mesmo sobre as doutrinas da Igreja Adventista, tem uma série de estudos lá no site muito completo, em vários idiomas, e você pode até usar para evangelizar outras pessoas, fazer esses estudos junto com ela.
That was recent world news from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Today's episode ends with images from the 61st General Conference session and a choir with people from various parts of the world. God bless.
when there's nothing left to do but just